enough Jane's texted to say Joan Kerner here in Victoria was an example.
And of course academics like to describe
Relatives, both of us couldn't do.
Well, textiles by their nature are ephemeral. There is that aspect to them. They break down, they don't last unless you take particular care of them. And a lot of my work has been for public spaces or commissioned or given away and hung outside and rotted, or to mark an organisation. You know, literally I've littered the world with banners over my life. You know that jagged piece underneath the foot of a sewing machine? That is actually called the feed dog. So the function of the feed dog is to go back and forward and drag the fabric through. If I drop the feed dog, it goes nowhere. If you think of a drawing, if you think of the fabric as a piece of paper and the needle as a pencil, I can do the opposite. I can move the paper under the pencil. So it's reverse drawing, if you like. I've always been attracted to the prints that have icons. Like African fabric, they are a story. Because they don't print the same ones over and over again, if you collect, say, for one decade, they tell the story of that decade. But it is a sort of an ephemeral passing and another recording of history. When you stand back and think about it, yeah, it's storytelling.
Or Max, sometimes.
The abseiling idea came because I needed some form of exercise, and living in the CBD was considered dangerous. For me it was an easy choice. I could live on the 15th floor, I didn't have to have a lot of security grates on the windows. But it was also an interesting take on bravery and risk-taking, you know, because to start your abseiling you have to actually stand on the edge of your balcony and fall back. Some won't be surprised to know that I would come home from work, have a whiskey, and abseil down the building. The building that I lived in, there were informal traders out on the footpath, and they were mostly women from neighbouring countries who were really poor, and they were bringing their handicrafts in to sell on the streets of Johannesburg. But they had their babies sitting in cardboard boxes. So my first response was to start up a creche. So suddenly we had a creche with people actually doing things, beading their cultural items, and, you know, because I'm always thinking in textiles, and I was at the time thinking about the quality of leadership in Southern Africa and how Mandela was such a wonderful person who really set some standards, and how a number of the others were real kind of dictators, and some of them were genocidal. And I was grappling with ways to deal with that in textiles. I wanted to lambast the leaders. I wanted to interrogate the different values that leaders had. And one by one, women from different countries said I couldn't do it. They just said, no, you can't be so disrespectful. These are our leaders, yeah. So bead by bead, my subversive plan was ruined. I'd been in South Africa for quite a while before I took up flying, because I lived in the middle of the city in an Art Deco building called the Anstey's, and I was the first person to move into it and started watching little aeroplanes circle the city, and it just piqued my interest, so I inquired, and my training flights saw me doing circuits of the city of Johannesburg. But then when I qualified Robert Mugabe was still around in Zimbabwe, so there was a need to get shortwave radios into Zimbabwe because the people there were not getting media. And I had an aeroplane license, so I started a smuggling career as a small sideline. I would just fly in with as many wind-up radios with shortwave bands that I could fit in a little Cessna. It's one of the worst things about sewing, to be nervous about your tension and your needles breaking. Needles do break.